Thank you, Kevin, and thanks to all the people at Creighton for having me back again. And I did learn a couple things tonight. One, I don't know Ethan, but I found out tonight he could have played for me back then. I like his act. Secondly, it's also, it just reminds me of how great things were here, just like Nate said and the other award winners, and how good it is to be in the presence of the two greatest athletic directors in Creighton history, Bruce Rasmussen and Don Leahy, who was in the AD when I was here. So it's great to be back. I'm also grateful to the Hall of Fame committee for inducting and recognizing Dan Smith tonight, one of the finest pitchers in Creighton University history, and arguably had probably the greatest single year on the mound in Creighton history. And over the last 20 or 25 years, I think Dan was the one guy that played here at the highest level, became a first-round pick of the Texas Rangers, and got to the big leagues in quick fashion, only to be derailed by some injuries. But I think he's the one guy that was falling through the cracks and had to live with the guy right before the '91 club that obviously did great things, but also got a lot of great publicity over the last couple decades. And the reality is that the year before, Dan Smith pitched us to our first regional berth in Austin, Texas in 1990, and became a tremendous pitcher that year. Our pitching coach, Todd Winberg, did a terrific job. I'm sure Dan will tell you that himself, molding Dan. But by going to the regional that year in Texas, we met Clemson. They were like 56-8 or something. We were the 5th seed. And they showed up about 10 or 15 minutes late for their own batting practice. And I think they treated us like they were playing Briarcliff that day, and they just forgot to find out who was pitching against them. And 9 innings later, it was Creighton 9 and Clemson 4. Complete game for Dan. 14 wins in a college season, and if it wasn't for that game and that year, I don't think we would have had the experience, obviously, what it takes to win the next year. So over time, he has not been given his due in the annals of the great years in Creighton baseball in the late 80s and early 90s. So it's with great pleasure tonight that I introduce Dan as the new inductee to the Creighton Hall of Fame.
All right, Nate. I have something. Okay, I asked Kevin to write it for me, and I knew Kevin, he'd forget. So, now, before I start, I'm going to keep this short because the bartenders were texting me, and they want some people to go see him, so we're going to keep this short and sweet. But before I really get started, I do want to ask all the current athletes to stand up, if you would. Okay, I know we're still here. Yeah, I would actually ask every single one of us to give every one of these athletes, student athletes, a big round of applause. Okay, you can be seated now. Thank you. My wife and family came in. We came in on Saturday, and we finally got around to campus today. And of course, it was snowing, so we didn't get to really get out. But it started to make me realize, what kind of family we really do have. And it's kind of been a common theme of tonight that Creighton is a family, and it really is. And it's because of the success that we had when we were playing, and then the current success that Bruce had said earlier. It makes us proud to be a part of that Creighton family, and really look forward to the next year. And you guys are soon going to be on this side of the table, as alumni, and you're going to sit down and you're going to look at all these young kids that are out there that are playing your sports, and you're gonna think to yourself, man, I sure hope they're working as hard as we did. And I think you can be rest assured with the coaching staffs and the athletic department that we have here that they're probably going to be working even harder. Jim Henry was a tremendous influence in my life, as was Coach Tom Wedberg, and I was really, I was going to kind of wait to see what Jim was going to say about me on how much fun I had with him. But when I was getting recruited, and I could have went to a lot of different places, Wichita State, Miami's, LSU, some really, really good baseball schools. And I remember I got a recruiting letter from Creighton, and I really hadn't heard much about him, but it just sounded good, so I opened it up. And Jim Henry had followed up through phone calls, and I decided to go ahead and I'll take a trip down here. Official, unofficial, mate, I'm not sure either, but I took a trip down here and went out to watch him play. It was a fall game or something. They weren't even Briarcliff, and I remember I really didn't know Jim at that time, and I saw him headbutt the dugout to get the team fired up. And I remember looking at everybody else and going, that's the guy I want to play for right there. You know what? Because any sport you play is fun. It's not a sport. Even I played pro ball. I played in the big leagues. It was still a kid's game. Always has been and always will be, and that's what you've got to remember. There's a lot of pressure in college athletics these days to really have success. But if you have fun, you will have success. I do want to congratulate all of the inductees tonight, and it's an honor to share the podium with you tonight. It's a great honor, and you all make it possible. The J-backers, the university, the athletic department, and I thank you for that. An athlete does need the right people surrounding him or her to have success, and I definitely was very fortunate for my time here at Creighton. When I arrived on campus and I got a chance to meet the players that were in my class, the Mike Heathcott and the Scott Sorensens and the Tom Schaefers, I realized quickly that these guys are pretty dang good. And this wasn't going to be easy. They weren't going to hand me a job, so they make me work harder, and I definitely thank them for that. And any pitcher will also tell you that they're only good as the defense behind them, and I'm not going to name all my defense, but tell you what, when I pitched, guys like Scott Stahoviak and Rick Freeling and Steve Hinton, Dax Jones, man, they worked their tails off when I was pitching, because I'd go out there and didn't think I had a good game, and I'd come in and I'd have a one-run game because they're running down everything. And they made me look good, and I'd like to give a big shout-out to them and a big thank you. But ultimately, it came down to there were two players that I played with that unfortunately aren't here tonight, but they were the lifeline for me. They were my catchers, and I was fortunate enough to not only play with two great catchers in college histories, but I think in all of baseball, and that is, of course, Scott Service and Ryan Martindale. I don't remember ever shaking them off, to call a pitch that I wanted to throw, because they always had the right finger down, and it kind of scary that they always knew what I wanted to throw. I think they were stalking me, but those guys made it easy, and it really made the game fun. It was a quick game, and next thing you know, we're in the van heading back to the hotel or whatever, and we just had another Creighton win. So I give them a big thank you. My mom and dad, who are no longer with us, and I do want to. Christy, this is your fault. Mom and dad are no longer with us. They would be very proud to see me up here, and I couldn't have done it with all of the support that they gave me and my brother and my sister. Tremendous people, and they were fortunate enough that they got to meet Jim Henry and Todd Wemberg and the Creighton family. I give them a big thank you, and I love you, Mom and Dad. Almost done, bartenders. I do want to shout out to my high school coach. He kept things fun and just kind of let us play our game, and that's when I learned that baseball was a kid's game. But ultimately, it came down to two men that are sitting at the table over there. I think it's table number 8. And it's Jim Henry and Todd Wemberg, and I would like to ask them to stand up. Without them, I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't have had the career that I had, and I wouldn't have been allowed to have Will Clark hit a line drive off my elbow and fracture it. But they gave me the opportunity, and I tip my hat to them, and they have no idea what they meant to my baseball career. But they had the wherewithal to go recruit a skinny little 6'5". What'd you say, Wendy? 165 I was weighing? 160? Okay, you basketball players will appreciate that. Think of 6'5", 160. That's about what I weighed. But they had, they had the guts, and they recruited me and brought me in. But not only that, they gave me the ball against some of the best teams in the country, and gave me the opportunity to have success. And I did, and it was all because of them putting the right team around me. And that's what they taught us more than anything. And to go back what Nate was saying, it's about being a family and being a team. So I consider every single one of you tonight a family member and a teammate. And I thank all of you for coming out. Thank you.
I have some thank yous. Thank you to Barb Epps, Lisa Chips, Athletic Marketing and Events, the CU Sports Information Office, the Alumni Office, the Public Relations Department for their assistance with tonight's program, and of course, thanks to all of you for being here and attending. Congratulations to all of the award winners. It was a great night. Thanks, and please drive home safely.